at 2:02. And just for the record, can we go ahead and take roll?
Certainly. Vice Mayor Ferris.
We'll get that started.
Present.
Attending from Battle Creek remotely.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner
So
Blood.
you can give us a call.
I am present and attending remotely from Battle Creek, Michigan.
Thank you. Commissioner Morris.
So if you want to give us a call on the 10th or so.
Present, attending remotely from Battle Creek, Michigan. Sorry, I'm not really feeling well today.
It's okay, dear. Thank you. And Commissioner Reynolds.
Yeah, yep, you got those reports, yeah, so there's only two.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Yep, then that's all they had was those two. There was no, this.
Carla, I can't hear you. Are
Right,
you
no, if
available?
They didn't have anything, then we filled what we had. So we gave you whatever we had, reference to those three. Yep.
Okay, we'll wait on Commissioner Reynolds. We'll go ahead and get started as we do have quorum with the three of us, and we will check in with her before any action items.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay. So on the first thing on our agenda today is the approval of the September 2021 minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to view those minutes?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September.
We have a motion. Any support?
Support.
Fantastic. Any discussion? All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Fantastic. Miss Reynolds, Commissioner Reynolds, are you there? All right, we'll hold the vote as it stands. 3. So this is where I'm going to turn it over to Mallory to discuss Battle Creek Transit operations right now.
Great. Thank you so much. I want to make sure that you can hear me clearly. I am a little bit away from my computer. So I want to give you guys kind of a background on where we've been. I know we went a quarter without a PTC meeting, and it's because we've been incredibly busy behind the scenes, as I'm sure you guys have seen in our press releases, and I know we've communicated to you. So I want to give you kind of an update of where we're at, some of the things that we're going to be bringing to you this year, and then we'll end with an action item for a proposed fare increase. So I'd like to highlight that BCT is still currently under a federal mask mandate through March 18th. This mask mandate requires passengers and operators to wear a mask at all times. And we've had pretty good compliance with this requirement. We've had only a handful of issues, and our staff, although wearing thin with many of the requirements that are related to COVID, they have been understanding and cooperative with this requirement as well. It is difficult sometimes because we are different than the rest of the city, and rather a lot of the businesses, organizations, and even some of the CDC guidance related to mask wearing. However, the TSA, the security directive, which is federal law, requires that public transportation have masks for both passengers and drivers at all times. In January, we announced a reduced service frequency on our main and post and Northeast Capital routes, and we reduced the hours of service for teletransit from midnight to 7 p.m. And we also suspended Saturday service for BC Go. We had to make those changes because we were so short-staffed. This isn't just a BCT issue. This is a national issue. CDL holders are in high demand. And as I'm sure you've also seen in our own community with school bus drivers, we are all fighting for the same pool of applicants. And even though we offer competitive wages and benefits, and we even offer training for those who don't have a CDL, we've just not been able to recruit at the level that we need to. However, we currently stand at 27% vacancy. This is down from, at one point we had 35% vacancy within our department, and that is across all divisions within our department: administration, operations, and maintenance. Since making those changes in January, we have hired 3 new drivers, 2 of which have already started, 1 of which will begin on Monday. And we've had 2 drivers return from an extended leave. This means that effective Monday, March 7th, we are able to return our previously modified schedules. So Northeast Capital and Main and Post will be able to return to their normal frequency. We'll be able to add 1 van back to the midnight service, and we'll be able to resume Saturday BC Go service. So I'm thankful that we were able to keep those service reductions to as short of a time frame as possible. Our staff is eager to get back to the regular level of service because they hear it from our passengers every day. And we will follow this meeting today with communication on Facebook, text alert, and we will work with our city communications team to make sure that this gets communicated. Many of our passengers have already heard this from our drivers and they are aware of the changes, but it's important to note that we aren't at full service yet. So even though we are adding back this service that was cut in January, this still isn't a full level of service like what we had, say, 2 years ago. We are still at a teletransit level that is limited to qualified ADA passengers, and general public as capacity is available. The general public is first come, first serve, and it's limited essentially to 2 vans throughout the day, Monday through Friday. Over this last year, we have ran BC Go. So we are celebrating 1 year of service on Tuesday. And if you recall, thank you. If you recall, this pilot was funded through the Michigan Department of Transportation. This was funded at 100%. That funding included capital to get us started with 2 minivans, to purchase the technology and equipment that was needed in order to operate, such as cameras, radios, tablets for the drivers. And it was all inclusive. The purpose of this was to demonstrate coordinated on-demand countywide transportation. And although we weren't able to fully demonstrate the feasibility of the coordination aspect of it, we were able to gather data and support the call for a cohesive countywide public transportation system. As we approach the 1 year mark, we thought it would be helpful to review kind of exactly what we've accomplished. So going through our BC Go service, we cover an area of 718 square miles. So all of Calhoun County. We're doing that with only 2 minivans. To date, we have more than 2,100 unique users. There have been more than 33,000 trip requests, and only a quarter of those have been able to be matched. And that's simply because we don't have capacity. In addition to operating only 2 minivans, we're operating at reduced capacity due to COVID, so that we're limiting the number of households and passengers that are not traveling together in one vehicle. We've completed nearly 8,000 trips and carried more than 8,800 passengers. We've learned through this that BC Go is roughly 20% more efficient than existing teletransit service. And this is primarily because of the reduced cost of the vehicles, vehicle maintenance, and the operating expense. On top of that, the dynamic scheduling software is constantly working behind the scenes. So it runs algorithms to essentially optimize routes and schedules throughout the day. This means anytime there is a gap or an identified change that would make the vehicle more efficient, the computer system automatically makes that change rather than requiring a dispatcher or a human sitting in front of a computer to monitor the efficiency of the vehicle. Our expenses are estimated to end at the end of this quarter at roughly $357,000 for a year of service. Now, again, that includes the cost of capital, technology, and ongoing operating expenses. We estimate roughly $50,000 per quarter to maintain BC Go at its current level, which is 2 minivans Monday through Saturday. For our fare box recovery, we've generated roughly $30,000 in fare revenues, and that translates to about 8% of fare box recovery rate, which is right in line with our other modes of transportation. Our MDOT grant will have roughly $40,000 remaining at the end of this quarter, and we anticipate we'll be able to continue BC Go in its current form through May and possibly into June. We will run BC Go until we run out of funding to operate it, but we have sought funding for continuation of BC Go, and we're going to call that a BC Go Phase 2. And then it's our hopes that in that Phase 2, if it's funded, we'll be able to then demonstrate the coordination aspect of it with our other community partners, such as Community Action Agency. Even if that funding does come in from MDOT, it's likely not going to be at 100%. They launched our pilot for us, and our goal is to show them that this can be sustainable. It's a sustainable model. But in order to do that, we need additional financial support from our community partners because we can't provide the service alone. We are beginning to have those conversations now. We are excited about the amount of energy that has come from BC Go, the number of businesses, healthcare facilities, and municipalities that have reached out to us to see how they can support BC Go and to see how they can have BC Go serve their specific needs. That is all I have for item 3 on the agenda. Is there any discussion or question?
Sorry, I was muted. Any questions for Mallory?
I was muted too, sorry. I just want to say thank you for getting BC Go up and going. And it looks like it's having quite the success, and hopefully we'll be able to find future funding for it.
Thank you.
I echo what Vice Mayor Ferris said, and also I really appreciate the thoughtfulness going into making this program sustainable.
Thank you.
So I did have a few questions. So I heard you say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you've identified that BC Go, because of maintenance and other things, has been found to be a little bit more efficient than teletransit. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
With that information, how do you anticipate, or do you anticipate any changes to teletransit because of that information?
That is a fabulous question. We envision changing what our fleet looks like, and we considered that when we applied for the discretionary grant that we were awarded to replace our fleet. We know that our current teletransit vehicles, which are body on chassis cutaway buses, we know that those are uncomfortable, they are loud, they are not appealing to the general public, and frankly, they cost roughly 3 times what a minivan costs. We rarely fill a 15-passenger teletransit with more than a couple of people. And so our plan, whether it looks like an expanded BC Go or just replacing teletransit vehicles, is to replace with a combination of minivans and then a fewer number of cutaway style small buses. There still is a purpose and a need for a larger, slightly larger vehicle. So for example, our minivans can only accommodate 3 passengers plus a wheelchair. So if we have a group of 4, a family of 4 traveling somewhere, we're not able to meet that need in a minivan. So through a combination of minivan, full-size van, and cutaway bus, we should be able to kind of optimize and make our fleet a little bit more efficient.
Fantastic. And I'm glad that you're looking at that and the future. Do you also anticipate teletransit, because you had spoke about the algorithms and things in BC Go and utilizing that service? And we've used it in our house. My son was using it to get to and from work. Is that something you see coming to where teletransit and BC Go are on a similar system?
It is. So right now, my team and I are working through the final specs of an RFP that we hope to have out by the end of March. And that is our major work plan item for this year. We hope to have, but before the end of 2022, in place replacement for the technology that currently exists. Our vision is that you would be able to download one single app and use it to ride fixed route demand response like teletransit or on demand like BC Go. It could also help you plan your trip on your fixed route multiple legs of your trip through one app and one form of payment or one wallet payment. And then also be able to tie in things like our scooter shares or B-Cycle. So we have a larger vision for what this one mobility app could look like. And we're hoping that we can start implementing phases of that throughout this year.
Fantastic. And I'm guessing you would network and coordinate with that e-scooter company that is going on right now. Well, not right now, but will come back and be with us.
Yeah, so most mobility platforms use some sort of data specification. And so in our instance, it's called GTFS data and general transit feed specification or something like that. There is also bike share, so GBFS instead of GT. And so really all we have to do is find a platform for our two data sources to talk to each other. So not expecting that, we will book your Bird scooter for you, but you would be able to link to the Bird app or website through our existing app.
Fantastic. And I love that you're looking at that integration and just, again, making our city more mobile and more able to get around town using various modes of transportation at varying cost levels. So I very much appreciate that. And like always, I lifted this up publicly. The way your team goes at funding and seeking out funding and writing grants, it's remarkable. So I look forward to hearing back how you do with that funding request from MDOT.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we'll move into number 4, which is to review and discuss proposed future service changes.
Great. So over the last year, our operations team has been able to review and recommend changes to existing routes. And the shortage of the school bus drivers, the rising cost of gas, and the pandemic in general has kind of allowed us to identify some areas of most need. We also have a full year under our belt with the position of a mobility manager within our office, who's able to make a lot of those connections and cue us in to where those struggles are or where lack of mobility exists. And during these reviews and discussions, we've identified a lot of small changes that will improve service for our passengers and streamline operations for our drivers. So some of those small changes can include things like reducing the narrow residential streets that we travel on, which proved difficult this year during our snow emergencies. We travel on some very narrow residential roads with cars parked and kids playing, and for us to be able to identify those areas that we can serve the more trunk line roads, those will come this year. We're also looking at how many private parking lots we enter and risk and hazard mitigation for that. And then identifying some of our bus stops that have a high degree of risk or safety concern. So over the last year, we've implemented our Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, PTASP. And through that, we've created a mechanism for our staff to report hazards, close calls, or near misses, and safety concerns. And this allows us to track a specific route or a specific location. Is it a specific vehicle? Really, we have a pool of data now that we can tie to things like on-time performance and close calls, including time of day. So for example, is it the orientation or direction of the route at this time of day that's causing a vision obstruction for a driver? Or is it congestion on a certain road during a time of day? And our drivers and all of our staff are responsible for reporting every day any safety or risk concern that they have. And then our admin team reviews those ongoing. So many of these changes that have been identified through this last process over this last year, we're able to implement those and kind of address those without coming to the PTC. We'll obviously communicate those Some of them seek public involvement. However, most of those don't require formal approval. One of the biggest changes that we've identified, though, is to the VA Fort Custer route. And this will be one that comes before you this year. This is one of our busiest and most frequent routes. So our Fort Custer route has the VA Express, which operates during peak hours twice a day. And primarily, this vehicle travels down Dickman Road without many stops after you get out of downtown until you get out towards the VA. And in that, we're missing the opportunity to serve high density housing, businesses, child care centers, schools, which became apparent as we were filling the void that the schools were filling with lack of bus drivers. And it was very hard for our mobility manager to talk to parents on the phone and tell them that we couldn't help get their kids to school on this route because we just didn't, we were more than a mile away from any of the schools that needed help. So there's going to be many hours of planning and public participation and obviously community conversation regarding this proposed change in particular. And this will also involve extensive conversation with the city of Springfield. We currently are not serving them, but we are hearing from them. And we will need their cooperation and their assistance and their support in order to serve their residents as well. And we know that we're traveling right through there. Our path of travel doesn't really change with our proposed route alignment. My team is eager, including my drivers, is eager to tackle this one. And so I imagine that at our next PTC meeting, we'll begin bringing this proposal forward to you with a little bit more specific about bus stop locations and route times and such. However, we do need to engage the city of Springfield in those conversations at the same time. That is all I have for number 4.
Okay. What questions do we have or comments do we have for Mallory in regards to this?
Not necessarily questions, but comments. As we go into Springfield and start serving more residents in Springfield, I just want to stress how important it is that the city of Springfield step up and help fund some of this. Currently we serve a lot in Emmett Township. We serve a lot of people in Springfield just because of close proximity. And going forward, I'd like to see more support from local townships and cities countywide to help get a more robust system in place, but one that's not solely funded by the city of Battle Creek. So that's not necessarily comments just to you, Mallory. I mean, you know our financial stripe as much as anybody else, but those talks will be really important going forward.
Anyone else? All right. Well, I agree with Commissioner Ferris. I think that as we move towards a county-wide possibly authority where we can look at transportation, that we can hopefully start bringing in some of those more buy-ins from other cities and townships that we can not only support and serve, but help that we already are. I love that you're looking at this at reducing travel on narrow residential roads. I'm sure as your drivers feel discomfort driving down those roads, people, parents, kids, they feel that discomfort as well. Like, oh, you're so close to my car. Like, I get that. Private parking lot usage, that is not something I would have thought of. Great thing to think about that, what that looks like and how that plays into anything that would have or could have happened. And you mentioned bus shelters, which made me think of our meeting minutes. I was wondering, because we were talking about bus shelter relocation and upgrades in our last meeting, how is that going? Is it going? What are you seeing from that?
Yes, so we are in the environmental review process right now, which requires us to take all 30 site locations and do an in-depth analysis of any environmental impact placing those new bus shelters may have. So at the middle of February, we met with our federal partners to give them an update on our progress there, and we continue to work through that progress. We also have our DPW department, thankfully, at our disposal to help us with the more technical sides of that, that my staff is just not skilled in, and luckily our engineering team is. We have the funding is not awarded, so it's not in an active grant, but it has been allocated to us. So as soon as we get through this environmental process, we'll be able to obligate those funds and begin kind of the spending / construction process there. However, in conjunction with that, as that's happening, we need to identify any potential new bus shelter locations. So should this VA Fort Custer route be realigned like this, how does that impact the placement of bus shelters, and making sure that we include those potential locations in that environmental review process? So it's kind of happening in conjunction with some route alignment discussions.
Great, and I'm glad that you are anticipating those changes for the Fort Custer route and looking at them preemptively rather than post. So you're getting ahead of it than trying to be reactive. So that's fantastic, and I'm glad that interdepartments are working together and you're utilizing DPW and their services. It's fantastic. All right, well, let's go ahead and move into number 5, which is our only action item, talking about a fare increase.
Okay, in 2020, just days, literally days before everything shut down due to COVID, I was before the commission in the final steps of approval for a fare increase. And I believe it was like March 17th, and we shut down on March 18th. I was seeking this fare increase for multiple reasons. I started in 2019. I did not have to be here long. In fact, prior to coming, to understand the budget situation that the city was faced with in the transit department. And our budget deficit that was budgeted at the time required us to actively pursue any possible additional streams of revenue. And that included considering a fare increase. So that was included as a proposal within the transit master plan that was approved at the prior PTC meetings. And not something that was necessarily thoroughly discussed, but was proposed in 3 different phases. At that time, we evaluated each of the 3 proposals, which was kind of do nothing, do a little bit of something, and take action. And we decided to move forward with the plan to take action. So although the amount seems small, the proposed fare increase was expected to generate roughly $140,000 in additional revenue. So the second reason why we requested a fare increase is because it had been 17 years since the last fare increase. Now we're 2 years later, having this discussion again, and I'm here again asking that we look at and consider a fare increase effective July 1st, 2022, so beginning fiscal year 23. And it's now 19 years since the last fare increase. When we look at our system overall, it's been nearly 28 years since there's been any fare increase to our multi-ride passes. Oh, sorry. The process for implementing our fare increase is not easy, and it's not something that we considered lightly. Our staff, along with the Foursquare group that did the transit master plan, put hours into analyzing what this fare increase would do, including how it could negatively impact ridership. So I am here presenting the same chart, which has had a slight change to it. So something to note is when I last presented this in 2020, Holland was at $1. So Max Macatawa Area Express in Holland, Michigan was previously at $1 for their general fare, and that has since increased to $1.15. And their demand response has increased from $2 to $2.30 and $5 to $5.50. So when we look at how our fare compares to other cities within Michigan and of similar size for the most part, We are the lowest fare for both ADA paratransit and fixed route, with the exception of Holland. You'll note that the difference between each of these other systems and how they operate is that they have a dedicated millage, which is something that BCT does not have. This chart shows a comparison of our current fare structure compared to the proposed fare structure. There is no change proposed to transfers or child fares. Multi-ride passes would increase at the same rate as the single fare. And the full fare increase for a passenger using the service twice a day, 5 days a week is $5. A reduced fare passenger with the same travel pattern would feel $2.50 per week increase. The proposal doesn't impact general fare for teletransit, but it does propose an increase in the ADA and reduced fare from $2 to $3. This increase would keep the ADA or reduced fare in line with the federal guidelines of charging not more than twice the fare of fixed route service. So in our budgetary calculations, we used our 2019 ridership data. And that is important to use rather than 2020 or 2021 because of the impact that COVID has had on our ridership. Based on the 2019 unlinked passenger trips, we were able to determine that our average fare revenue is less than 75 cents. So that tells us that the majority of our riders qualify for reduced fare or are purchasing passes in a multi-ride pass so that they realize that discount. If we apply the same percentage of increase to the 2019 ridership data, it would tell us that our average fare per trip would increase to roughly $1. And combining that with the increase in the paratransit fare would generate just under $140,000. So the important thing to note here when we're looking at this picture of $140,000 is that these are estimates from 2019 that paint a picture of full service, right? This is a full level of service. This is full staff. This is full buses and healthy, robust ridership. If we were to measure a year from implementation to see, oh, did we really make $140,000? The answer immediately is going to be no. If I had to say going into fiscal year 23, I would love to budget $140,000, but we'll be able to instead measure the increase in our revenue along with the increase in our ridership. So as it relates to our ridership, we are still building back our ridership compared to our 2019 numbers, and it continues to improve. But I would not want you to come back to me a year from implementation and say, show me the $140,000 increase. However, 2 or 3 years from now, when our ridership has returned to full levels of service, I estimate that we would see at least $140,000. And one last note here regarding considering alternatives. It's a common theme that came up during public comment and public hearings. And there were 3 alternatives considered, as I said, and there was a lot of discussion regarding a phased in approach. But I think it's important to understand that there is a cost to this implementation, and it's not just staff hours that are the cost, it's materials, it's publications, it's reprogramming technology, and paying our farebox company to update the change calculations and things like that happen when a passenger gets on the bus and the machine tells them how much to pay. So although a phased in approach is understood the value of, it has been determined that the cost associated with implementing those changes favored just a one-time increase. And so with your action today, my team is proposing the following schedule for implementation. So with your recommendation today, that would go before the commission. We would seek 30 days at a minimum of public comments. We would do public outreach. We would hold a public hearing, and then the commission would formally adopt. In the meantime, my team would be preparing everything internally in order to roll this out for full implementation on July 1st. Are there any questions?
I'm wondering if there would be a possibility, if we are to approve this, for you to go before the full commission again, just to explain some of the things that were explained just now regarding the cost of implementation and you know, how it has been so long since anything else has been increased, and the comparison, basically just what you showed us just now. I think that you did that at that presentation back in March in the before times. If that could take place, you know, it's one thing for us to say like, yeah, we agree with it, but it's another thing for everybody to be able to see all of that information.
Yes, our internal discussions have said that we would likely be able to have some sort of workshop. And then during that public hearing last time, I presented immediately before the declaration of a public hearing.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
absolutely open to doing that again, and re-engaging the new commission that didn't do the presentation last time.
Yeah, I think that would be important because, yeah, we were right on the cusp of approving this before. I at least that's the way that it felt like the tide was going. So I think that it's important for them to have that historical perspective on it, and to be able to see all this information.
Any other questions or comments?
This is Commissioner Reynolds. I agree with that, Vice Mayor Ferris.
And Commissioner Reynolds, can you identify where you're calling in from for the record? So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Commissioner Reynolds, visiting remotely from the city of Battle Creek, Michigan.
Give me 1 second.
Thank you, Commissioner. That will be good for the record. Commissioner Morris, do you have any comments, questions, suggestions?
No questions. It was interesting to hear the feedback about how residents felt about how we should possibly roll this out, or the ways that they wanted you to look at different ways we could roll it out. But I do appreciate the research that you and your team put into this, and I have faith that rolling it out as one would work better than phasing it out.
Fantastic. So I agree with both Commissioner Ferris and Reynolds in regards to having this come before the commission again, because when it comes in front of us, it also comes again in front of the community. I love the public outreach that you are jumping on it now. You're not waiting until only a month beforehand, but you're giving ample time to get outreach and comments and hearings, so that can really be ironed out and discussed. I also agree with Commissioner Morris. You know, a phased approach has a lot of those hidden costs behind it. And so doing the one approach seems logical and the most efficient way. In regards to considering that, has your team anticipated or thought that there might be any ridership loss with that? And is that something that you think you have to account for, or that you won't see?
That's a good question, and one that I didn't touch on. In the transit master plan, they actually did estimate a ridership loss associated with a fare increase. However, it was minimal. So it's estimated to be 2% loss in ridership. And so that is factored into the estimated revenue.
Okay. And then the other question is, I don't know where we are in the process of possibly becoming a county transportation authority. I'm not sure what that looks like yet, but I am interested to see that several of our other communities who do charge more for fare also have a millage rate that support their transportation, and we do not. So I would again like to just put out there, I would support, just like I support a millage for our libraries and for our schools, I would also support a millage for transportation. When we have robust transportation that I feel engages more residents and more communities, and we can grow because we can move around a little bit more easier. So I just, for one, will support a millage if that's something we ever get to. I just wanted to put it out there because looking at that, millages don't have to be much, but they do help funding that obviously we all feel in the transportation department. Okay. Well, we have, can you go to the slide, Mallory, for the fare increase that you're suggesting proposal? Okay, so now that we have had the discussion for the fare increase, I would entertain a motion.
This is Commissioner Ferris. I'll make a motion to approve the fare increases as proposed by the Transit Department.
Commissioner Reynolds supports.
Fantastic. So we have a motion that has been made and supported. Is there any discussion around that? Okay, and go ahead. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Fantastic. It's unanimous and has passed in regards to this, and we look forward to that timeline and bringing that before the community and the commission. Speaking of our community, I would like to open it up to any public comments. Do we have any public present? Nope. Okay. All right. So, oh, Ryan, I saw you come off mute. Go ahead.
Sorry, my mouse was on the wrong screen. There is no public present.
Thank you for that. All right, member comments. Are there any member comments or member questions?
I just want to thank my fellow committee members. I know it's never an easy decision to raise prices for folks. That's why it hasn't been done in literally decades. So thank you. This is something that I've been on the committee, I think the whole time I've been on the commission, and it's something that has come up time and time again. And like I said, we are really close to getting this on our commission agenda back in 2020. So I think it's important that we do move forward with this, and that we're able to let our other commissioners know the importance of this fare increase. And like you said earlier, I agree that it would be nice if we did have some sort of a millage to help support our transportation system. Those are discussions that we had before on this committee, but they kind of were at a standstill because there was stuff happening on the county level. And so we didn't want to, take on the cost of that. Plus, it's a big undertaking to try to get a millage through. We didn't want to move forward with that while there was something happening at the county level. So it looks like there might be progress at the county level. Again, I don't have all the details of where we're at in that process now, but yeah, if it were a county-wide millage, I think that would be preferable to a city millage. But thank you for raising that up again, because yeah, all those other communities are supporting it in other ways that we don't here in Battle Creek. So thank you.
Fantastic. And so if we're going to have another meeting, I would like to have another meeting in June, and perhaps, Mallory, an item on our agenda in June before we roll this out in July and we can iron anything out. Perhaps you can follow up with the county, see where they are at, and follow up with some millage information on how we might start those talks again. So if that can be on our next agenda item, and again, I would like to meet again before we roll this out officially in July, as long as that is acceptable by my other members on here. Do we agree to meet in June before we roll this out?
Sounds good with me.
Me too. Thanks for proposing that idea.
I am too. I'm fine with it as well, Commissioner Reynolds.
Fantastic. So we'll go ahead and plan to meet in June and to talk about and have the millage and kind of where we are with county updates. Any other commissioner comments, questions, or suggestions? Or Ted. Ted came off mute. Or Ted.
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it. And just a quick point of clarification. This process is happening independently of the budget process, although both would be enacted on July 1st. And I just wanted to clarify that when this comes before the City Commission, the action of this body will be, positioned as a recommendation to the City Commission to approve the fare increase. And Mallory, remind me, I believe you're in front of the commission in early April. Is that right? To talk about what's going on with countywide transportation.
That is correct. I believe it is April 5th. I am scheduled to present kind of where the county is at as a whole in the countywide transit discussions. And we are presenting to each municipality within Calhoun County during this time. So I can provide you guys an update at that time, and we can discuss also if you have any other questions.
Yes, please. That would be fantastic. And I look forward to that discussion. Any other thoughts, comments, or suggestions from anyone? All right. Well, we did not need 2 hours. Look at how efficient this team is. Okay, well, thank you for everyone who came out. Thank you for all the commissioners being present. It is appreciated. So we had quorum and good discussion. And Mallory, I just want to open up the floor one more time. Is there anything you would like to update us on in regards to anything we may have missed?
No, I think that really does cover it all. I appreciate your support and your recommendation to the commission. My team will keep working on everything behind the scenes, and we will keep you updated. I look forward to the presentation in April and the countywide discussions. It has been an ongoing project, I think, since I came to the city in 2019. And although COVID may have slowed down the conversations, it hasn't stopped them, which is a great sign. So I'm looking forward.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to hearing that. If no one else has anything else to add, we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 2:50.